What's good, y'all? Welcome back to Rick Knows Hoops. I'm your host, Tyreek, and I want to talk about the Wild Western Conference because there's a lot of teams out there that might be legit contenders to at least make it to the Western Conference Finals. So be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you are new. And this is just a channel where we talk about NBA basketball, man. So let's get it. The game of the night really was the last game of the TNT schedule, the second game, the Clippers and the Suns. Unless you was living under a rock and you missed the Suns versus the Jazz the other night, that was one of the best games of the season. And I really wanted to talk a lot about the Suns, but I really feel like this is just going to turn into me talking about the contenders in the Western Conference, because there's a legit, I think, like maybe 5 teams that, you know, can make a deep postseason run in that Western Conference. Like, that's just how stacked the West is. And I want to start with this game. I want to start with the Phoenix Suns, though, as they lost this game tonight. But second night of a back-to-back after playing the overtime game last night and beating the Utah Jazz, who has been the best team in the NBA all season long. And Phoenix, they've shown, I think, that, you know, they're more than just a feel-good story. Like, they're actually a contending team this season, especially, you know, when you have Chris Paul. And, you know, Devin Booker, I feel like Devin Booker's getting a lot of disrespect. Like, people aren't trying to give him the credit, even though he's playing on a winning team this season. And, you know, all the talk was about him never making it to the postseason. Well, he's going to make it to the postseason this year. And I think the bubble is a very good experience for this team, getting to play some meaningful basketball. So along with those two, and just all the other, you know, great players that they have surrounding, like Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder, Cam Johnson, DeAndre Ayton's been really good, especially lately. And, you know, all the other guys that they have. I think this team has what it takes to make some noise in the postseason, at least win a series, and definitely give a team in the second round a great series. But if the season ended today and the Clippers and the Suns both take care of business in the first round, this would be the second round series. And honestly, if Paul George is playing the way that he's been playing recently, especially tonight, because he was lights out tonight. Like, it seemed like he wasn't missing any shots. If Paul George can play like that, or at least somewhat to that level in the postseason, Clippers are a scary team, and I think the Rondo effect is real. I really think the Rondo effect is real. Just having that floor general, that leader that puts players in the right positions, is something that the Clippers missed desperately last season, and they were missing at times also this year too. So having Rondo, who had a breakout game tonight, you know, for the Clippers, he had 15 and 9, made a lot of big plays, and he's been playing great defense since he's been inserted into the lineup. So, you know, that's great. Patrick Beverley coming back, even though he's on a minutes restriction, he's been playing pretty solid. Reggie Jackson's been playing great, especially over like the last 6 or 7 games. He's been playing amazing. And I didn't know like the Clippers were like the best 3-point shooting team in the league. I think percentage wise, they've been shooting it lights out. You know what you're going to get from Kawhi. So I think this Clipper team, I think they'll go as far as, you know, as well as Paul George can play in the postseason. That's really going to be the key factor for this team. Still got to get Serge Ibaka healthy, because that's another key piece for them. But I like what they showed tonight. You know, they really amped it up on the defensive side of the ball. I like the closing lineup that they had. They had Nick Batum playing the 5. They had Kawhi, Paul George, Rondo, and Marcus Morris was out there too. I really like that lineup, as, you know, they were able to switch pretty much every ball screen, and they really clamped down defensively, which, you know, ended up being the key difference in this game. But yeah, those are just 2 of the teams, and I'm gonna move on to another team, the Los Angeles Lakers, who we all know they're missing 2 of maybe like the best, like at least, you know, top 7 players in the NBA. Anthony Davis and LeBron are both out. We still don't know when they're gonna be back in the lineup. But another thing about this Laker team is, even without those 2 in the lineup, they're still like the number 2 defense in the NBA. And you can see that at times tonight against the Miami Heat. Despite losing this game, they really showed that they can clamp down defensively. You know, guys like Dennis Schroeder have been, you know, excellent on the defensive side this season. KCP has always been a very solid defender, but tonight he was, you know, he showed his offense a little bit. He's been struggling a lot lately, but, you know, he had a really big game tonight. I don't know what his final numbers was, but I know he had at least 25 points. He was really shooting the lights out. But I think this is a game where Kyle Kuzma would have been key. Kyle Kuzma would have really helped, especially because he's been playing a lot better lately, especially since, you know, the Lakers need offense. That's really what, you know, is holding this team back, is offensively. They just can't really score the ball with the lineup that they have out there. Dennis Schroeder had a very poor night offensively. Good to see Andre Drummond back on the court after he injured his toe early in his Laker tenure, but he played pretty solid early on. I'll be interested to see just how he's integrated into like the offensive scheme. I still see him being more as like a Dwight Howard type, but I think that would be great for him because he can really thrive in that role. So I posted like a little question thing on Instagram, and somebody asked me if the Lakers were a 7 or 8 seed, should they be worried? And my answer was, as long as LeBron and AD are healthy, they shouldn't be worried at all. I don't care if they have to go into somebody's building, to start a series off. I would still pick the Lakers really against anybody as long as those two are healthy. I think the Ben McLemore addition, I think that could be a very key piece to this team because I could see him having like a playoff game, like where he gets like 15 points off the bench, hits like 4 or 5 threes, and just, he's a key piece of why they win an important playoff game. I could see something like that happening. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility, but a good win for the Heat. Hopefully Victor Oladipo's okay. He kind of tweaked his knee. He was able to walk off under his own power, but non-contact injury looked kind of weird. So hopefully he's okay. Jimmy Butler did his thing. He balled out. And hopefully the Heat can just get it together because they've been one of the more confusing teams in the NBA, definitely this season. And I want to move on to another Western Conference team. Team that we just mentioned earlier, the Utah Jazz, playing against the Portland Trail Blazers. And, Utah, I think their biggest downfall in that game last night, they got back to playing Donovan Mitchell hero ball against the Suns, especially in the fourth quarter and overtime. And even though Donovan Mitchell can hit some tough shots, that's not how the Jazz have been playing this season. They've been playing so well this season because everybody's been touching the ball. They're letting everybody, make plays, run the pick and roll. And, I think that's when this team is at their best. Jordan Clarkson's been struggling lately, but I think he can get back into his rhythm. Mike Conley had a bad night last night, but I didn't watch this game too much in depth. It was a weird game, like competitive game early on, and the Jazz went on a big third quarter run. But I wasn't as invested in this one as I was the Suns versus the Clippers. But nonetheless, Donovan Mitchell had another big night offensively. So I'm kind of like the Trailblazers. Like, I think they might be the odd team out of like contenders. Like, I'm not really too sure about this team, honestly, because it seems like they play a lot of close games and they rely on a lot of Dame time. A lot of Dame time to bail them out. And I don't think that's a recipe for success come postseason time because we've seen Dame can do it for like, a series, but that's a lot on his shoulders in order to, make another deep playoff run, which is ultimately what this team really wants to do. So yeah, Rudy Gobert dominated the Trailblazers tonight. I feel like he always has a big game against Portland. It seems like that always happens, but yeah, I think the game against the Suns was probably a good wake-up call because it just lets Utah know, like, other teams are definitely contenders with y'all. And I think there should already be added, motivation on their shoulders because, a lot of people think that they're like that Atlanta Hawks team from 2015 that, won like 60 games in the regular season, but nobody believed in them in the playoffs, and it proved to be true. So we'll see if Utah can, write a different story than that Hawks team did. But, this is a good start for them. Nice bounce back, second night of a back-to-back too. And, Portland's not an easy team to beat, and they pretty much dominated the second half. So good win for them. And the last Western Conference team, a team that started off the season really poor, but they've been picking up lately. And I remember specifically talking in one of my videos when I was talking about this team, once their offense caught up to, the rest of their defense was being okay early on, but their offense was really struggling compared to last season. Once their offense caught back up, this team was going to be tough to beat. And that's the Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks been playing really good basketball, even though they did get upset last night by the Houston Rockets. Can't really speak too much on that game or what happened in that game, but Luka was pretty fired up in his press conference. I know that much. But this is a team that, one of the best offensive of all time last season. I think maybe the best. And they really struggled coming out of the gate this season. And there's a lot of questions. There was a lot of hype coming into the season about Luka, his MVP candidacy. Everybody pretty much, he was the odds-on favorite to win the MVP early on in the season. And then, not that he got off to like a bad start. It was underwhelming how his team was performing, correlated to his production on the court. And, a lot of people were worried about this team, me included. But, Rick Carlisle's got his guys. He's got his guys, back playing really good basketball, and I like what I'm seeing from this team. Porzingis is always a little bit of a question mark, but I think he just has to be a good number two. He just has to really play his game, similar to how he was playing in the bubble, and especially early on in that Clipper series. I think this team could potentially pull off a first round upset, if not give another team a good run like they did last season in the bubble. So, but it's gonna depend on not just Luka, but and KP, but guys like Jalen Brunson is gonna have to be really good. Tim Hardaway Jr. is gonna have to be good. Josh Richardson has to pick it up. They're gonna have to need production from those guys in order to potentially pull off an upset in that first round, because it's looking like they're probably gonna stay in that 6-7 seed range. So they're gonna play one of those top dogs, whether it's Utah, whether it's Phoenix, whether it's the Clippers, or if the Lakers get back healthy, or the Denver Nuggets, who's another team that's been playing really well. Like, this Western Conference is very stacked, and it's gonna be a very interesting postseason run. And I've talked about the Nuggets a lot, and that's the team. Since they traded for Aaron Gordon, they're 7-0. They haven't lost. They're looking amazing on both sides of the ball. Hey, the West is always wild, but this is probably one of the more wild seasons in the Western Conference, man. I don't really think there's any team that you can definitively say is better than the other. And I think there's probably at least 4, possibly 5 teams that, could legit make conference finals runs. I'm not even trying to exaggerate there, but good win for the Mavericks, beating the Bucks. Giannis is still out. I think he has knee soreness. Hopefully he gets back, because the Bucks, they're solid without Giannis, but you could just tell they do miss what he provides. Especially Giannis he's been playmaking really well this season too, so they missed that a lot. And he's a 2-time reigning MVP, so you're a better team with him on the court for sure. Another game that I want to talk about. Caught the tail end of this one, and it was the Bulls and the Raptors, and I've been catching the tail end of a lot of Bulls games over their little 3-game win streak. And the last 2, they almost scared me, bro, because I thought they were gonna blow the lead. I'm kind of rooting for the Bulls, because it's just basketball is better when the Bulls are good, the Knicks are good, the Lakers are good. When those big market teams are good, basketball is just a lot better. It's more enjoyable for some reason. And the Bulls, they went on a little bit of a losing streak coming out of the All-Star break, and they almost blew a game in Indy. Well, they didn't almost blow it, but it looked like Indy was going to make a run. But then Nick Vucevic was able to, kind of put the game on ice along with Zach LaVine. And tonight, Zach LaVine pretty much put the game on ice too. But the Raptors tried to make it interesting. Shout out to Chris Boucher, man. Shout out to Chris Boucher, because I remember before the season when I was doing my podcast with some of the guys that didn't last too long, but we was doing a podcast and we was talking about how, the Raptors were going to replace Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka. And I said, Chris Boucher, I think Chris Boucher is going to have a breakout season. And he's really had some big moments for this team this year. Other than, Jordan Clarkson, he's probably, at least second or third in, 6th man of the year. At least he was coming off the bench early on in the season. The Raptors have been so bad. I haven't been, keeping too much track of them lately. But, he's had a really good season. I think, he's shown that he's a part of their young core going forward. And I really like what I've seen from him. He had, I think, 38 and 19 tonight. That's a huge game for him. But shout out to the Bulls, 3-game win streak. I think they're in firm position of that 10 seed now. But, for them, you got 2 All-Stars now. You want to look to make a push, and this is a good win to separate yourself from the Raptors. The Knicks lost to the Celtics the other night. Boston's still not playing that well either. So it's if you're the Bulls, you can make a little bit of a run. But, you just got to handle your own business, what you got in front of you for sure. And then the last game I didn't really tune into, but it looks like the Sexland backcourt had a pretty nice game. So, but those are 2. I want to talk about the Cavs though real quick, because I got a friend he's a Cavs fan, and we was talking and stuff, and he was basically just saying I like what our backcourt shows and stuff. I just wish we were a little better in the defensive end. And I told him, I'm well, this season's been kind of weird, but the Cavs were one of the better defensive teams early on when they were playing Drummond and all that. They were a pretty good defensive team, and when Larry Nance was in the lineup and stuff. But I know he's been missing time here and there, so that definitely affects them. But they drafted Isaac Okoro, who is showing that he can be a very good NBA defender. I think whatever their draft pick is this season, this coming off season, depending on where it is in the lottery, you can add to what you have. I actually like their backcourt. I really do like their backcourt. I don't think anybody's untouchable though. That's the one thing, or anybody's irreplaceable. But I do like their backcourt. I really like what they have back there with Darius Garland and Colin Sexton. Even though they're undersized, but I think if you compare them with some like really good defensive players, kind of like how they did with Dame and CJ, you might be able to have some success too. And I like JB Bickerstaff as a coach. Jared Allen being a young piece at the center position, I really like him there. I think the Cavs have a pretty decent future compared to maybe what it looked like a year or two ago. And also, I want to, I've raved about OKC's future. Like, I really think they're in a prime position to, it'll be hard for Sam Presti to mess this up. That's all I'm trying to say. It'll be hard for him to mess this up, but yeah. Nice night of NBA basketball for sure. Man, that Western Conference. Oh yeah, the last game. I just want to touch. Mo Harkless caught a body. He dunked all over Isaiah Stewart. But the Pistons ended up beating the Kings. And the Kings, I don't know, man. The Kings, they do this thing. They look really good for like 5 or 6 games, and then they look really bad for like 5 or 6 games. And it's like, I don't know. It might be time to get Luke Walton up out of there. That's the only explanation I can see. Because this team, they definitely have talent. It's just a matter of putting it all together, I guess. And I guess staying healthy too, or just deciding, what your direction is. Are you gonna try and make the playoff push, or are you gonna, just hit, another full reset? I don't know. I feel bad for Kings fans because they haven't made the playoffs in a very long time. But yeah, I'm gonna end the video on that note. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, if you're new, and I'm gonna be back next time, y'all.